Let's go ahead and get started. So again, I want to officially welcome everyone to today's compliance group webinar. We're going to show you how to transform CSV to CSA using a very powerful ALM tool called Polarion that Miran's going to do a great job at showing you the capabilities and power of the tool. We're also very appreciative and thankful of having Mr. Steve Jakinski from Siemens here today. Steve, welcome to today's webinar.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Steve's got over 15 plus years as a medical device industry expert, so we look for a lot of insightful commentary from him throughout today's presentation. We also have Miran. Miran Syed is our Polarion guru at Compliance Group, and he's really going to walk you through the power and capabilities of CSA. Miran, just want to officially welcome you to today's webinar.
Absolutely, Chris. Thank you very much.
Yep. And last and certainly not least, Mr. Dennis Nevins. Dennis has been around the Polarion ALM business for far too long. I kid, Dennis, I kid, but he's been an industry expert for over 15 plus years, and he is one of our account executives at Compliance Group, and he's going to go ahead and get started with today's presentation. Dennis, the floor is now yours, sir.
All right, thank you very much, Chris. Can you advance the slide? All right, we want to start just with a little introduction. What are some cultural barriers that have been paralyzing the validation industry for the last 20 years? And a lot of it is based on, focusing on a non-product software. And manufacturers have been following a guidance that's over 20 years old, mostly out of fear of getting a 483 from the FDA. What they say to us are things like, we are risk-based, everything is high risk. Or we validate all software, like product software, when these things we're talking about are non-product software. We make way too much documentation. It's a lot of overhead, and it has very little value. And we have a lot of deviations. When they occur, we find them mostly in documentation errors. There's a few others down there, but Steve, would you take a minute and give us your thoughts on this from your perspective and Siemens' perspective?
Yeah, sure. From my perspective and my experience, these perceived hurdles we have here, and it's a really good list, they sometimes just cause software improvement projects to be scrapped before they can even be evaluated fully. And sometimes the company sticks with the old method because they know all the problems of that version or that solution. And other times they revert to paper or stick to paper, depending on where they're at. And so I think, as we're going through this, part of the goal here is reframing CSV as computer software assurance, and that's useful because it changes the conversation from this validate everything is high risk to a more clear delineation between the product and the non-product supporting systems. I think just to add to that, as far as Siemens' perspective in our efforts and work with the FDA, the FDA is really focused on the product quality and risk. And a lot of times the supporting software, of course, helps that, but it's not what the FDA is really focused on for the most part. So that's what I would share.
All right, thank you, Steve. So what Steve's referring to is we're part of a team called FICSA, which is FDA and industry CSA team. You'll see the companies listed here, quite a variety. This team started, I believe, back around 2014. You'll notice just a couple of people here. We are a consulting company that's part of this team. Khalid Musali, our executive vice president, is on it. You'll also notice some Siemens people on the right side there. And you'll notice that, of course, there's an FDA representative, Cisco Vicente, who's been very involved with this all along. So it's something that keeps us on the fine leading edge of CSA and what's coming for CSA over the weeks, months, and years ahead, as well as what's occurred in the past few years. So for those of you who have seen our other CSA webinars earlier this year and last year, of which we have many, we just want to pause on just a quick review of the 5 key things you should know about CSA. First, it's a risk-based approach to patient safety and product quality, and it's not meant to measure requirement complexity. It calls for less burdensome documentation as an approach, as a strategy. It can reduce paperwork by 80%, mostly on the testing areas where you can introduce unscripted testing, which are very quick test results, and ad hoc testing. Testing does not go away, testing just changes. Fourth, this results in less issues of problems in production, which is really important to product quality. And fifth, the FDA and the ISPE have both supported and endorsed this effort for years. Steve, you have any other thoughts about these 5 points?
Yeah, thanks again. So I would just reiterate here that the FDA support in this initiative is really a primary reason to get behind it. The Case for Quality effort as an aggregate team, they recognize that the way the industry perceives CSV is too burdensome, especially for the non-product software. And they're worried about product quality and innovation losing out to non-product software validation efforts. So this is another way to say, hey, let's focus on the products that save patient lives.
So this has been going on for years, by the way. Companies are starting to endorse CSA more and more. You'll see or hear over hundreds of companies worldwide, not just in the U.S., have been looking into it and evolving towards it. Compliance Group ourselves, we've helped over 15 clients in their CSV to CSA migration. Some of the examples are off on the right side. So what are the issues with paper-based software validation? So customers are telling us first, it's this paper, 100% paper process has huge overheads to them, collating, printing, signing. And even in the last year and a half with COVID, people are trying to do all this from remote home offices, which further complicates it. And even though some companies are starting to open up again, it's going to be a while before we're back to normal office-based work. Traceability is another key issue. It's time-consuming and error-prone if you're doing it manually. It's very hard to get reuse of artifacts. Polarion, during the demonstration, will tell you is very strong with this and can really help save dollars and provide ROI by improved reusability. And then also, we reduced the document review cycles, for another example. One of the companies we work with had 2 sites around the country, and they measured 20 GXP software systems that they were doing, and they believed that they were burning more than $100,000 a year due to these inefficiencies, and they're looking at CSA to help them improve this, and Polarion as a paper-based ALM tool for them. And another case study, we cannot show the name, but this is one of our clients. They went out and did some measurements on their own as we implemented took them from a legacy system to a Polarion CSV paperless strategy. And they felt 4 key areas of improvement. One was overall efficiency was improving around 40% for them. They were also reducing the planning time for their validation and testing, almost half. And then the execution of that validation time was also reduced by, they estimated, 40%. And by getting better and easy automated reporting, they thought they were saving over 50% of time. Then they went to study that financially and decided that it was at least $200,000 per year on the 5 key enterprise GXP systems that they were looking at. Steve, you have any other comments to this case study?
Yeah, I think it's a really good demonstration on not just how CSA reframes the approach to especially non-product software, but also CSV to product software, but it's also about the tool that really makes this risk-based and data-centric approach. So Polarion has rich traceability that really takes the headaches out of the process. And it allows for even real-time testing and attachment of supporting evidence very quickly, very easily, same template. And Graham will get into this more, but really the Polarion CSA template that Compliance Group has created really streamlines the entire approach.
All right, thanks, Steve. So to kind of summarize this portion of the presentation and just do a level set with you, well, what we're providing and offering is really a vetted Polarion ALM product. It's been involved in many life sciences companies for more than a decade. It comes with a lot of integrations and other templates beside the one we're going to show you today. And those templates, when rolled out, help implementation time faster. But we're also a services company. We've been doing validation services for more than 15 years. We've also taken a lot of leadership positions, both with FDA and ISPE GAMP, as we mentioned. The ISPE GAMP Computer Software Assurance appendix was released in November of 2020. And we also offer a hosting service. And if you choose that, we offer a lot of security with it by being SOC 2 Type 2 compliant, as well as ISO 27001 compliance. So just for one slide of introduction, what is Polarion? So first of all, it grew up as a requirements management tool. That's what a lot of people know it as, but equally strong, it's a test management tool. So you combine those two things together and you collect a lot of data, you centralize it, and that provides the capability for live reporting that are easily executed, pre-built reports, or if you will, custom reports end users can build themselves. It also can be used for software development, especially if people are practicing agile practices or even moving to the SAFe methodology. So you'll see there's really 8 more little defined pieces to this. At Siemens, when I used to work there, this was affectionately known as the pizza pie. So to start the demo, just to introduce the flow of the demo that Miran will use, we're basically targeting these different pain points. First of all, the overhead you get from a paper-based process. Secondly, if you're doing manual efforts, then your templates tend to be inconsistent, especially in large organizations with multiple locations and different sites and different projects. This can all help centralize and streamline that. The risk assessment is also very difficult when done manually, and therefore it makes it very hard to do risk-based testing without automation. Trace matrices are another huge pain point if you're trying to do them manually in Excel. This will show you trace matrices built in a Polarion that are automatically generated as data is entered. Again, reuse is very hard in manual efforts, but reusability is a key strength, time saver, and ROI generator for people that use Polarion for CSA. And of course, management is invisible. Management has no visibility without reporting. So without analytics, that's a problem as well. This helps solve that as well. So with that, I'm going to turn the demo time over to Miran.
I first of all welcome all the attendees. Thank you for joining today's webinar. It's a pleasure, talking in front of all this audience. Let me just take through the Polarion presentation, demo, in fact. So what you see on my screen, we are taking example of a CAMSTAR MES project that we have validated for a few customers. We'll take this as an example or as a system, and we'll go through the entire demonstration of mechanism that we have built within Polarion. Okay, so let me start with the SDLC process that's there in Polarion. If you see towards my left navigation, what you see is the entire SDLC phases that we have developed within Polarion. Now, as a day in a life of a validation engineer, or whenever you're trying to validate a particular system, what you do is you first come and you set up a new CSA. We'll go into the granular level of all these steps that's there, what you see on my screen. But what you do is first you set up a new CSV, then you do your planning phase. We'll see what is there in each phases, one after the other. And then you have your requirement phase, the design and build, the testing, so on and so forth until your change control. So what we are giving to all Polarion customers is not just the SDLC, but we are also giving the defect management, the change control. We also have a concept of release that we have developed as a part of this particular template that you're seeing on my screen. Okay, so let's directly get into the set up a new CSV. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you're going to validate a particular system in Polarion using the CSA methodology and using the template that the compliance group team has developed. Okay, so as a first step, what I do is I go ahead and set up a new CSV. Okay, there is a small form that you need to fill in. I hope you all can see my screen. Okay. So this is a form that you need to fill in. This is talks about what type of system that you're trying to validate. That you have various questions in there. So let me just quickly go ahead and fill the questions here. So let's say I'm trying to validate a CAMSTAR system. So CAMSTAR MES. Okay. The version of this particular system, then what is the intended use of the system. So you can write the intended use of the system right here. Okay, and let's go to the next set of questions. And these questions that you're seeing on my screen are configurable, but this is comes along with the CSA template that we offer to our customers. So the next set of questions here are: what is the type of system it is, whether it is an enterprise software, laboratory benchtop, equipment software, spreadsheet. So for example, I'm selecting CAMSTAR MES as an enterprise standalone software where it is hosted. Let's say it's hosted on cloud and I have about 100 customers in there or 100 users in there, and I'm going to use this for my internal purpose. And you can also select a GAM categorization. What we have given here is we have given an option called unknown as well. Let's say, for example, you want to first fill this form, go back, do your GAM categorization and come back and select that information. Because I know what type of CAMSTAR MES system is, I'm going to select configure with custom components here. So the moment I fill all the answers, I need to complete the form. Okay, so what we have done in the background is we have built a mechanism. What this mechanism is going to do for us is it is going to create two granular level work item. Okay, work item is nothing but an object in Polarion. If you have not seen Polarion before, or you don't know what work item is, it is nothing but it is a requirement for some of you, or it is an object with a lot of attributes in there. Okay, let us go ahead and see what that is. So once I have set up a new CSV, I am going to now go to my planning phase. So I'm going to follow the entire SDLC, what you see on my left hand side, this panel here. So I have completed my new CSV. I'm going to go ahead and start performing the planning phase. So what is there in planning phase? So in planning phase, I have to perform my GXP and ERES applicability assessment. And I'm also going to go ahead and do the risk assessment as well, the system risk assessment. Okay. What we have done, our template offers you is it offers you risk assessment at two different levels, one at the system level and the other at the functional or requirement level. Okay, so let's go ahead and perform the planning phase. So the first step in planning phase is to get into the GXP and Part 11 assessment. Okay, and if you see on my screen, sorry, do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, and if you see on my screen, right, this is the GXP E form, or in Polarion terminology, we call it as a work item. So what we are offering as a part of this GXP assessment or Part 11 assessment is you have your set of questions, okay, which is a combination of a lot of your quality and product, and patient safety. So everything is incorporated in this set of questions. It's a collaboration of product quality, patient safety, etc. here. Okay, so if you have noticed the form that we have filled a couple of minutes ago, the information has been translated from that form here. Okay, so you're tracking everything within Polarion. So now let's go into the GXP questionnaire. Now if you see what the system is telling you currently is by default that this is not a GXP system. Okay, now we all know when a system is not a GXP system, you're going to end your validation process there. Okay, there itself. But let's go ahead and address some of these questions. Okay, what you see here, there are two different sections here. One is for the GXP applicability, which is a combination of your product quality and patient safety, etc. And you also have the electronic records and electronic signature questionnaires, which is your 21 CFR Part 11. Okay, let's go ahead and answer some of these. So let's say, for example, does the system control the quality of product during its development, manufacturing, testing, or handling processes? I say yes. So I keep looking at these questions and I keep answering all these things. some of you might have a question that, okay, how do I know what to answer, and is there any procedure behind this? So to answer that question, we will have a SOP, okay, that is going to give you the entire procedure how to address some of these questions. So let me go ahead and answer real quick all these answers. I say, okay, this is also yes, even it requires a signature. So for me, almost every question that you see on the screen is a yes. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this. Now, if you see, based on the responses that I've given on my GXP and as well as 21 CFR Part 11, now the system is telling you, okay, the system that you're trying to validate, it is a GXP system. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and move in the rest of the CSA validation of my app system. For in this example, we have taken Camstar. So now I've done my GXP and Part 11 assessment. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next step, which is my system risk assessment. Okay, now this is a system risk assessment. So as per CSA guidelines, we are calculating two different components here. We first need to determine the business criticality, and then we need to determine the business complexity. And based on these two set of questions, the system is going to tell you what is the level of your business criticality is, how complex your system is, and what is the overall risk assessment of this particular system that you're trying to validate. So let me go ahead and answer these questions here. So now, if you see, right, in some of the slides which Steve and Dennis were talking about, how Polarion along with the CSA is going to reduce your efforts in validating a system, you might have seen in just a few minutes we have done setting up a new CSA system. We have done with our GXP and Part 11, okay, and now we are into this system risk assessment. So the amount of time that Polarion is reducing by introducing the CSA into this CSA mechanism, you might have noticed this today. Okay, so let me just go ahead and answer some of these questions. Could the system impact patient safety? Yes. How about the product quality? It is also yes. For now, it's no regulatory impact. This is also a yes, and yeah, it is configured to meet the BRS. So I have answered all these questions, and I'm going to go ahead and save this particular work item or e-form. Now, if you see, based on the responses of these questions, what the system is telling is the business criticality for your validate system is high, and the system complexity is custom, and the overall risk assessment is also high. So it makes your job so easy. Everything is automated. You don't have to have the hassle of putting everything in paper. It's all paperless, what you've seen, and fully automated. So now I'm going to also show in our demonstration how are you going to route all these things for approvals as well. Okay, that we are going to see in a couple of minutes from now. So now I have taken care of setting up a CSA. Now I'm done with my planning phase. I'm going to go directly into my requirement phase. So I have opened a template. Okay, in one of our template, in the slide that Dennis was projecting, we have shown that how Polarion is going to offer you a consistency of template across the board. Okay, no matter where your facilities are across the globe, the consistency of template is maintained, the historical data is maintained, the versions and everything is maintained. What you're seeing on my screen is a classic example of a user specification requirement document. So it's a user requirement specification document on my screen. Okay, and this is again you get all the templates preloaded with our Polarion CSA template that I'm demonstrating right now. So if you see, this is a Word kind of a document. Okay, if some of you used to work, see and work in a Word kind of a document, this will be a very nice example for you. So everything is built within the document. There is a tight relationship or the link between the requirement and the document. Okay. Uh, Previously, when I was demonstrating the GXP and system risk assessment, I was talking about the work item. And if you see, this is again a work item, which is nothing but your requirement. And now this requirement is built right within the document. So there is a very tight relationship between these two, the document and the work item. So let's go ahead and perform the functional level risk assessment, which is also a backbone of the CSA methodology, right? So if you want to go ahead and assess the risk assessment at the function slash user requirement level, what you can do is you can come within this document, and if you see here towards my right hand side, what you call as a work item property, it's a Polarion terminology. What we have done as a part of CSA methodology or the CSA guidelines is you need to have, there are two parameters that you have as a part of CSA, the patient risk and the implementation method. So in patient risk, the CSA tells that, okay, you follow the direct, indirect, and none kind of an option, but if you have something else that you want to incorporate in here, we'll be happy to do it. It's very easy to configure such things in Polarion. So for now, if you see this requirement, talks about, okay, the patient risk is indirect and the implementation method is out of the box. But I wanted to see that, okay, I have selected a wrong patient risk. I'm going to change that. I might have accidentally did it, or I have contacted my end client and they said that, okay, no, there is a direct patient risk for this kind of requirement. So I go back, change that patient risk to direct and the implementation method example to custom. And then what I do is I come and save the document. So what Polarion will do is it will automatically calculate the risk assessment at your requirement level, and it's now going to tell you that, okay, for this requirement the risk rating is high, which is a value of 5, and it is also suggesting you that you need to perform a robust scripted testing. So imagine the amount of time that you're reducing just to calculate your requirement risk assessment. It could be the functional requirement slash user requirement. Okay, so what you can also do is, let's say there are hundreds and thousands of requirements, out of which you find it, okay, there are 10 or 15, 20 requirements are very similar. So what Polarion also offers you is it will offer you to go ahead and make bulk risk assessment. So I'm going to show you that real quick in a minute, how you can perform the bulk risk assessment in Polarion. If you see, I am into tracker view, okay, and here I have all the list of user requirements. And let's say I wanted to go ahead and assess the bulk risk assessment of these three, because these are very similar kind of requirements. So I select all those three and I go here, I select, okay, it's indirect patient risk, and the implementation is out of the box for all these three, and I'm going to save the all these three functional level requirements. So I've done that. Now if you see, all the risk assessment of this particular three requirements got changed to risk rating 2. So in few seconds I have identified or calculated the risk rating of all these three similar kind of requirements. So you can do such for multiple requirements, could be 20, 30, 40, 50 requirements together. So the amount of time that you're saving just to calculate the user requirement level risk is huge. Drastically the time is coming down. Okay. Now there is one more point that we have seen in the presentation that Dennis was projecting, that the risk-based stress strategy report is manual, okay, for a lot of customers from the life sciences industry. But what we are doing is we are offering a very straight away a dynamic trace risk-based stress strategy report. So let me real quick show you how that report looks like. So the moment I start identifying and calculating the risk rating of each user requirement or functional requirement, there is dynamically a report is being built, okay, which is nothing but risk-based trust strategy report, okay, which is going to give you the entire holistic picture of your CAMSTAR system, and it's going to show you that, okay, these many of user requirements are there, and with different risk rating for each requirements, what type of testing that you need to perform. And if you see, you can also know the decision making is real easy. Okay, you can just pick up, okay, what are the list of user or functional requirement that I have with highest risk rating, meaning 4 or 5 or even 3. You can focus more on that. You can spend more time on that, and start mitigating those risks. And it offers you that particular dynamic report from the risk-based test strategy standpoint. So we also have a quick report around a kind of a pie chart which talks about how many of my risk rating are with different risk type. For example, if you see risk rating 5 has got 67 requirements, but risk rating 1 has got 22 requirements. Likewise, right? So now the larger question is, okay, now I have identified all the list of the risk rating for my entire system. How am I going to mitigate this risk? Okay, as a part of CSA guidelines, it's all testing. Okay, in order for you to mitigate any risk, all you need to do is go and perform the testing. Okay, what CSA is also giving you is the unscripted test case. So let me show you two examples. One, a classic example of a scripted test case, okay, and we'll also go ahead and see what is unscripted test case looks like, okay. And as I said, as per CSA guidelines, in order to mitigate the risk, all you do is testing, okay. Now this is a classic example of a scripted test. This is a test script IQ, okay, wherein you go perform step-by-step execution of a test case. Okay, let me just show you how this execution form look like. I have already executed just in the interest of time. Okay, if you see, it is saying that, okay, you need to perform robust scripted test. This is a robust scripted test for a login page example. Okay, and if you come here, you have all this step-by-step. This is your execution area. This is your run that you need to select. Are you, executing this test case in run 001, run 005, or whatever? No, this can be configured. And if you see, you can attach the evidences within each step, and you can start executing each step by step, and you can go ahead and either based on your output of that test case, you pass the test case or fail a test case. And if a test case is failed, what Polarion is doing is it is automatically generating a defect for you, and it is going to link or tag directly to that particular requirement, to that particular test case. So you have the end-to-end traceability, because one of the problem statement in one of our slide, we have seen that there is no proper trace metrics, or there are a lot of, there is a lot of efforts that goes into creating a trace metrics and maintaining the consistency when something new is introduced. So if you see here, I'm going to show the trace metrics real quick, but here is a quick snapshot of what happened to this test case. It got failed under which test run, if a defect got generated, how much time. There is a time calculation is also available, and this is configurable. If you don't want to calculate the time, we can go ahead and remove that. But who executed this test case and when it was executed? So this is a classic example of a scripted test case. But what CSA is also offering you is the unscripted test case, which is going to give a leverage to the tester. Okay, now let me show you. This is a classic example of an unscripted test case, okay, where you don't have this step-by-step process of executing the test, but here it is more like a use case objective, and a prerequisite, and you're giving that free wing or the flexibility to your tester that, okay, this is the use case objective and this is the prerequisite, you go and execute this test case. There is no step-by-step procedure that you need to follow. So imagine the flexibility that your tester is getting, and the amount of time that you're saving by introducing an unscripted test case. So this is a classic example of an unscripted test case. And as a part of our CSA template, we also offer the pre and post approval at different levels at your system risk assessment, and as well as at your test case level. So this is a classic example of your test case. Now, let me go ahead and quickly show you some of the reports that I was talking about from the trace metric perspective. Okay, we have two different reports available to us. One, we have a classic requirement trace metrics, and then we also have another trace metrics that talks more about the test coverage as well. And these reports, what you see on the screen is, let me show you from a different project, maybe that will be more helpful. So let me just show from this particular project, CAMSTAR. Okay, also at the same time, I'll try to open a document so that we will see how easy it is to route a document for signatures or approvals. Okay, so what you see on my screen right now is a requirement trace matrix, traceability matrix. This can be configured again based on your requirement, your business need, right? For now, if you see, we have a trace metric right from our user requirement to a design specification to a test case, and it can go up to n number of levels. So you can have from user requirement to your design and functional requirements to your test case, likewise, right? And this is a dynamic trace matrix. You don't have to do anything. The moment you start executing, link your requirements, test case, this trace matrix is keep building on, and it's all dynamic. It's a real-time trace matrix. So this is one kind of a trace metric, and the other flavor of trace metric is with the test coverage. So some of our customer wanted to also see what happened to this particular test case in the trace metric itself. So here is a quick glance. It's going to show you, okay, this particular test case was passed or failed, right? So you get the verdict along with the test case as well. So let me also show you a quick report. Sorry.
Moran, sorry, not to cut you off. We've got 5 minutes left, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time because we do want to give folks a few minutes to do a live Q&A, as we do have quite a few questions that have come in. So do you want to show that really quick, Moran, and then we'll jump right in the Q&A after Dennis's conclusion?
Sure. Absolutely. Awesome. So let me quickly show a defect trace metric and talk a little bit about impact analysis, and then I will hand it over to Dennis. Okay. Great. All right. So if you see on my screen, this is a defect trace matrix, and many of our customer wants to see what is happening to the defect, overall defect. Okay, how many defect got generated per release, per requirement, or per test case. So this is again a real-time and dynamic trace metrics around defect traceability. There's one more very important report that I wanted to show you is the impact analysis. Okay, when you're trying to bring a change and a defect got generated, here is a very nice, cool report that offers you the impact analysis on your requirement. Okay, when a defect is getting generated, how many of my requirements getting impacted because of that defect? So it's a report that comes along with our template. So imagine the amount of the decision making is so easy by this simple report that we offer. So I think that's about it from my end, Chris. I just wanted to show this impact analysis as well, and then we'll take up the questions. Over to you, Dennis.
All right, so just to begin to conclude, what's important to know with Polarion compared to other paperless validation solutions is that it can be extended into the life sciences industry much further than just validation. So we offer the CSA CSV like we showed you today. We can also help you with equipment validation. We've built a template for that. We also can help R&D organizations with their design control needs with templates that are built, and even your software development teams with SAFE. What's important to know is that what you're seeing today is the work items that Maran talked about, as well as the documents that he showed you. We offer both views, if you will, of both capabilities. Some people who've used HP ALM in the past, for instance, they're used to objects, and that's all they're used to working with. They can't really work with documents. And so a couple other paperless systems are kind of document only. You can't really work with the objects. With Polarion, you can choose to work with both, and even users can choose to work with which they prefer. Some prefer rows and columns in Excel, and some prefer Word. It also has just a variety of other uses. It's much more than just a single point solution for paperless validation. So in conclusion, if you choose to have us help you with your CSA implementation of Polarion, again, we offer this ALM leading tool based on OVM reports, etc. We've built the CSV workflow already for you, includes Part 11 signatures, and our hosting includes high security. This template is an end-to-end template already built, and you get a lot of analytics as we were showing you. So this is what we deliver if you choose to have us do that. So what we'd like to do is just thank you for your time. We'd really like to get in touch with you and schedule a longer, more tailored demonstration to multiple people in your firm. We'd be glad to do that when you choose to have us do that over the weeks or a couple months ahead. And with that, Chris, can you tell us of any questions from the audience?
All right, let's jump to this other question. Is there an approval process for the initial assessments in Polarion?
Well, I would start to say we saw in the very beginning that fill in the blank forms, if you will. Those can all be tailored. So depending on each firm, you can add and delete and modify those. But yes, you can set up an initial upfront configurable set of questions to help launch the process faster.
Okay, so let me follow up with that with another question by the same individual, Steve. Is there a review and approval of new test cases? And then what about review and approval of executed test cases?
So we offer review and approval of the test cases, pre-execution and post-execution. So both is built in our CSA template. Today was not a sufficient time to go through because I haven't shown how to execute a test case and how you do the pre and post approval, but that is already built in our CSA template.
Question one by Melissa. Paper is easier to use to discuss review with an auditor. How would this be presented during an audit? Would it be stored electronically, or would a packet be pulled from the system at the very end?
First of all, I would say that you would probably pull a packet, certainly in the beginning, when you're of important documents that you can generate quickly and easily, reports and documents from Polarion to be prepared for your audit. But I think equally important is when you're in the front room and you're under an audit, and the auditor asks you a question that you weren't prepared or don't have in your packet. By knowing all the data is centralized, you can put it in your you can very quickly go back, create another document, create another report, and bring that data back to them. And when the auditor sees your ability to be that responsive to an inquiry that didn't make sense at first, but then does make sense, it really makes the audit go with less friction and easier to accomplish. So I think it's a combination of both. Some people have said there is a way with Polarion that you can also really change the view, limit them to just a couple of things that they can see. And some people have talked about wanting to put a computer in the front room and actually let the FDA look at it. I don't know too many people that have gone that far yet, but it's certainly a capability within the software.
Yeah, I think it depends on who the auditor is, right, and what you're willing to show. But I think the impact analysis that Maran was able to show is really powerful. I mean, the note here is paper is easier to review and discuss with an auditor, but in reality, a graphical trace like that is really powerful because you can see directly where to go next as an auditor. So it really simplifies their job and makes things go more quickly. So even if you're cautious, you can do a screen print or something, but it's really nice to be able to show that directed traceability right in there. And as Dennis mentioned, there are different roles that we can use to control the view.
once again, Moran, Steve, Dennis, thank you very much for your time today and a very insightful and robust discussion around Polarion with CSA.
Thank you.
Bye,
Great,
everyone.
thanks.